Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Vicente.
And this is Izzy.
And welcome back to the Ivy Podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to review The Flash. And let me just tell you right now, I really enjoyed it. I have my problems, and I've seen people complain about it. Legit complaints, not just, little nitpicks. And while I can see those complaints, I actually really enjoyed this movie. And for it, being loosely inspired by Flashpoint, I think it did a really good job, for the story. And we got to see Michael Keaton come back, and it was this awesome Ben Affleck as Batman with his last movie. Izzy, what do you think of this movie?
I think as a huge fan, I think as a person who's not like a huge fan of like the older Batman movies, I really enjoyed this movie. This was such a fun, loving movie following the Flash and Flashpoint, and like we're actually in the middle of watching the show, but back to the movie. It's great. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad we got to watch tonight.
Yep, it was so badass, and the special effects were cool. So Izzy, do we want to start our timer right now for the first 6 minutes being spoiler free?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start it in 3, 2, 1. Okay, spoiler-free time, spoiler-free discussion. Now, I really did enjoy this movie, and before anyone asks in the comments, we are not going to talk about Ezra Miller's controversy, because we're here to talk about the art, not the artist itself. And Andy Muschietti did an amazing job. He did the Pennywise duology, and It Chapter 2, and they were good movies, and he's actually confirmed to direct the new Batman Brave and the Bold movie, and I'm very excited. But Izzy, what would you rate this movie?
For me, I would give this movie a solid 8.5. I really enjoyed it. As by no means is it perfect. No, there are still issues. But overall, it's a really enjoyable movie and also a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it's very emotional. Like, you're going to feel emotions with this movie, specifically with Barry seeing his parents. Not going to talk about the spoilers just yet. But anyone that loves their mama, like I said, this movie takes a lot of inspiration from Flashpoint very loosely, but when it comes to those emotional gut punches, it really pays off. And we get to see Ben Affleck return as Batman one last time. And let me just say, Ben Affleck, I'm going to miss you, man.
Yeah. And back to the Ezra Miller thing, I think this would have been a really fun movie to release for Mother's Day. How heart-wrenching that would have been.
Oh, shit, yeah. But, it works out for Father's Day, too.
Yeah.
Father's Day weekend.
That, too.
And we get to see Michael Keaton return as Batman. Izzy, you talk about this.
I mean, Michael Keaton's Batman was just amazing in this movie. We all know how good of a Batman is, and he just does it 10 times better. All of his scenes are really enjoyable and memorable throughout the film.
Yep, and the minute he popped up on the screen, I looked at Izzy, she looked at me, I was like, yeah, it's about to go down. And man, Michael Keaton, you really, really deserved it. You really knocked out of the park. Now, Supergirl, what did you think?
Oh my god, Supergirl. I'm so glad I wore this shirt, by the way. But she was probably my favorite character in this movie. Even though she didn't have a lot of screen time, I really enjoyed her character. And it is one that I would want to see in the future again.
Yeah, I hope Sasha Cale comes back in the role. She fucking killed it. She was just badass. Like, she is my new favorite female protagonist alongside Sarah Connor, Ellen Ripley, and Sidney Prescott. She is just amazing. Like I said, everyone just did the best of their ability with this movie, especially with the big cameos, which we won't talk about just yet. But Andy Muschietti, you did an amazing job with this movie. And I'm very excited for your Batman movie.
Yeah, and I think you're going to do a great job with the Batman film. And just the tone, I don't want to get into the tones, but just the way that this movie was, I'm excited to see how the future is going to go, because I think it's going to be great under your direction.
Yep, and with all the controversy surrounding this movie about whether because at one point I think it was just going to release on HBO Max, and it was just going to get canceled, but wow. I'm really glad we got to see this movie. Now, I'm going to be honest right now, is it better than Across the Spider-Verse? No, but at the same time, it's a good movie on its own. Yeah. The humor works, the emotional tone works, everything works perfectly in this movie, besides some 2 negatives I have, which I'll talk about in our spoiler discussion. But yeah, Izzy, any more thoughts you want to give this movie before our timer runs out?
I just want to say that if you aren't a super big fan of Batman or the Flash, or even the specific actor in this movie, I still say go watch it. It is honestly a really beautiful and memorable film, especially if you are just a fan of the character Flash.
Yeah, and even the special effects look pretty cool.
Mhm.
Sometimes they look a little wonky, here and there, but you know what? We're seeing it from Barry's POV. So, of course, everything's going to kind of look like a blur. But just, seeing him in the Speed Force and just even talking about it, the visual effects, to me, I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, the visual effects are probably, other than Supergirl, one of my favorite things about this film, just because of how much detail is in some of these things. In some of these scenes, it's beautiful to look at all the hard work and hours put into this, finally put together. It just looks amazing to me.
Yep, and Michael Shannon coming back as General Zod.
Mhm.
I'm really glad he came back, even though he said that making this movie or acting in it wasn't really anything special, and it sucks he said that, but he did a pretty good job, and I'm glad he came back, because he was always one of my favorites in Man of Steel, and just one of my favorite DC villains in general, and so it was nice seeing him back. I wish he never got killed off in Man of Steel, but Michael Shannon did an amazing job.
Yeah, he was really good in Man of Steel.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it sucked that his character is killed off unceremoniously, but for that story in particular, I can understand why he did. And I guess one could say he came back as Doomsday, but we all know that Doomsday was whack.
Yeah.
All right, so Izzy, what would you rate this movie?
For me, I'm going to give it a solid 8.
Solid 8? Okay. Why a solid 8?
I think there are some things that aren't perfect in this movie, but other than that, I think even just with some of these characters and just how beautiful the cinema in this film is, I think it deserves an 8.
Oh, timer's up. Now, I'm not going to talk spoilers just yet. I'll count it down. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm going to give this a movie a 7.9 out of 10, and I'll talk about why with our spoiler talk. Okay, people, that's going to wrap it up for our spoiler-free section. Now, if you've seen the movie or you just don't care for spoilers, we're going to talk about it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Izzy, motherfucker. This movie broke me, with Barry saying goodbye to his mom, the death of Michael Keaton's Batman, even Supergirl dying hit me hard.
Yeah, I was not expecting all of these deaths in this movie and how emotional it was going to be. I was expecting this really fun, loving movie. Yeah, there's this bad guy. We're going to beat the bad guy. There we go. I was not expecting the death at all.
Yeah, and I will say, one of my biggest negatives, which I'll talk about later on in the video, was the reveal of Dark Flash in the ending. But those were only 2 negatives. Most of my positives outweigh the negatives. So, Izzy, anything else before we start our positives when it comes to spoilers?
No,
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Like I said, this movie was good. All right, and without further ado, let's get into our positives. So, starting off with our first positive, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's going to be Ezra Miller as the Flash. Now, like I said, we're not going to talk about his controversy. That's old news. You guys can go look it up about what he did. As much as I disagree with it, and, I have my own issues with it, like I said, I support the art, not the artist itself. But my God, Ezra Miller knocked it out of the park as Barry Allen.
Yeah, he did. I think his acting as Barry, especially when you're looking at from the first act to the third act, is just amazing because of his character development while being with himself. And you see the differences between the characters and how versatile he has to be in order to play these 2 characters. It's just amazing.
Yeah, because he also plays a younger version of himself. And it really shows his versatile as an actor when he's able to be serious, but then instantly just go, comedy mode, all this fun, loving, goofy guy. Just a good job. I loved his Barry Allen. I think the Zack Snyder Justice League cut really redeemed his character. And I'm going to talk about at the end of the video if I think he'll ever come back and if DC should keep him.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Ezra Miller, it's more personal when it comes to whether or not he should be in it. And we can't decide. It's up to the company.
Yeah, that's up to James Gunn and everything else, But like I said, Ezra Miller, you did a really good job at being Barry Allen in The Flash. I tip my hat off to you, sir.
Yeah.
For the art, of course. All right, now starting off with our second positive, Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton as Batman. I am so fucking excited for this. We're gonna start with Ben Affleck first. Ben Affleck, you do not get any justice in this whole DC universe. You got completely screwed over. You could have been one of the best Batman portrayals ever. Granted, you did good. You worked with what you got. I know you're a good actor, and I blame Joss Whedon Justice League dialogue in the movie itself for ruining any potential that this universe had. But for the little screen time we get him in this movie, he's everything I imagined in Batman and Bruce Wayne, especially his dialogue when he's talking to Barry about going back to the past. And he literally says, our past doesn't define us. We can't let it control us. All we can do is finally let go and live in the future. Something along those lines. But that's literally Bruce Wayne himself from the comics.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome that he's able to portray that through the screen. And yeah, we don't get him for a long time, but the time that we see him on screen with Barry, I think just solidifies how good he is at being Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and it sucks. It really does suck because we're never going to see him again. You know, hopefully maybe in a multiverse movie, you know, because I know he was going to have a solo movie kind of taking inspiration from the Arkham Asylum game. That would have been a badass movie. He was going to face off against Deathstroke, but you know what? Ben Affleck, I'm going to miss you, man. You were, to me, you could have been my favorite Batman of all time, but you know, I still enjoy your performance and you gave it your all in this movie, and I'm glad you went out with a bang in this one.
Yeah.
And that you didn't die, so that's good. I would have been sad if they killed you off in this movie somehow.
Yeah, I hope we're able to see you in the future because I think that would just make so many fans happy.
Oh, hell yeah, it make me happy. And my brother Raymond, of course.
Yeah.
All right, and now Michael Keaton as Batman. Holy shit. Let me just say this, guys. This man, I used to say this man was probably one of the worst Batmans when it came to hand-to-hand combat. Nah, this man was fucking boxing people left and right. He was boxing Russian soldiers. Hell, he was boxing freaking Kryptonians. And this man was doing karate kicks and everything. And granted, I know it's not Michael Keaton himself doing those stunts. It's probably a stunt person. But holy crap. You know, you can imagine him, it's himself doing those stunts. And he was badass. To me, he was the X factor and star of this movie.
Yeah, I think just his in this movie and just his personality and attitude carries so much throughout this movie. He plays it so well as being a Batman, an older Batman.
Yeah, you know, it kind of makes me wish that we would get a Batman Beyond movie with him as an old Bruce Wayne. That'd be so cool. I would love that. You know, and then when he died in this movie, not once, but twice. I think the first time he died before they went back in time to try to stop the events, you know, I was like, oh, okay, that's sad, you know, whatever. And then they go back in time and he still dies, but he went out with a fight, you know, like I said, boxing a Kryptonian, putting explosives on him, and then he finally just gets thrown like a rag doll. And I'm going to just say this right now, his death really hit me hard because even though Michael Keaton isn't my favorite Batman, he's still my childhood Batman that I grew up watching. His Batman movie was the first one I've ever seen when it came to Batman. And so it was like saying goodbye to a childhood hero too.
Aw. I was really sad during the death scenes. I'm not very attached to his Batman, but I think just watching him in this film makes him memorable to me. And so when he did die, twice I should say, it made me really sad.
Oh yeah, I told Izzy, we're watching both movies this weekend. We have to. Batman 1989 and Batman Returns. I'm very excited. But yeah, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, I tip my hat off to you. You guys are literally Batman. Michael Keaton it's as if you never left the role at all.
Yeah.
All right, and now moving on to our third positive, Sasha Cole as Supergirl. Like I said, she is one of my new favorite female protagonists alongside Sarah Connor, Sidney Prescott, Laurie Strode, and Ellen Ripley. She was just awesome. Even her costume is fucking badass. Granted, I remember people complaining about, oh, well, Flashpoint has Superman. Why can't they have Henry Cavill? Well, understand this, DC and James Gunn kind of got rid of Henry Cavill. And I think they did have him in for one scene, you know, before Flashpoint got created. But they deleted it. But Sasha is a fucking badass as Supergirl.
Yeah, she was probably my favorite character in this movie. She was just badass throughout the whole entire thing. All she cared about was her cousin and protecting the people. And she wasn't flaunting that she was a woman. She was just a badass person. And I think that's amazing that she would put all that power just to save all these people.
And, you know, and I love Melissa's portrayal on a CW show when it came to Supergirl. I thought she was just as badass too. But this one was an interesting take because she was kidnapped and held prisoner by these Russian soldiers experimenting on her. So it was nice to see kind of a darker version of Supergirl, but it ended up working out. And people complained about her being able to stand up to Zod so easily. Think of it like this. Clark Kent got transported to Earth as an infant. he never had time to develop his powers or learn how to fight like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kara Zor-El, aka Kara Danvers, was transported to Earth on an escape pod when she was a teenager, so it's believable that she learned how to fight and control her powers a little bit better than Clark ever did. And honestly, Sasha Cole, she's a Latina. I gotta support my fellow Latinos in this movie, and she was just so perfect. I hope she returns and James Gunn in the new DC universe made by James Gunn, because if she doesn't, that's a crime to me.
Yeah, that would be a loss for him because she plays the character so well, and her backstory is just so interesting in this movie. I would love to see it in a more in-depth adaptation and see where her future goes.
Oh yeah, this was a dark portrayal. Let's hope we can see her in a more lighter portrayal, kind of like Melissa's portrayal in the CW Supergirl show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say this before we close out with Sasha Cole as Supergirl. Viva la raza. You were just badass, bruh. I loved you, man. All right, and moving on with our fourth positive, the special effects. Now, like I said, there are some scenes in this movie where it looks a little wonky, especially when Barry's getting struck by lightning or when he's being held by these constraints in the Speed Force. But even then, when he's running and all the lightning effects were just so cool. I think one of my favorite special effects scene was the hospital scene when he was saving the falling babies and the nurse.
Yes, and I will say, the people in the special effects look wonky, but other than that, I think all the colors and just everything else in the special effects look amazing. I think just the lightning in almost every scene with Barry is one of the most amazing parts. Even his suit, the suit looks amazing, and it just, the way that the lines are identified with the yellow, it just look against the red, it just looks amazing.
Yeah, and I'm glad because people complained about in the first Justice League movie that his lightning was blue compared to just being yellow.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that when he's wearing the suit, it's that yellow lightning, and it's so cool. And like I said, people complain about the running scenes, but honestly, it makes sense because it looks like a blur to Barry. He's literally running past these people, so they just look like a blur to him. So I will give credit to the special effects team for making it realistic when it came to the POV scene when Barry's running.
Mm-hmm. The special effects were, bottom line, the special effects were my favorite thing in this movie, apart from the characters.
Yeah, in the stunt choreography and fight choreography, when it came to Supergirl and Batman and the Kryptonians and General Zod, they were just top notch, man. This movie really surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah, I was not expecting I was expecting all the fight choreography, but it was done so well. You just have to appreciate it.
Yep, I agree. You're gonna appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and number 5 on our positive list, the emotional tone and comedy that works in this movie. Now, Izzy, do you want to talk about the comedy? So
for the comedy, I think this movie balances it really well between the serious, the comedy, and the emotional. Some of the scenes gives a good breather, especially with the young Barry. Mm-hmm. And it does sort of get annoying at some points, but if you understand his backstory, that he's coming from a carefree childhood compared to the older Barry, who's coming from a childhood that comes from anxiousness and being by himself, it makes sense why he would be so carefree in these situations. Yeah,
and like I said, yeah, he's annoying, but we were all annoying when we were 18. And he does have funny comedy moments to even have me laughing and stuff, especially towards the ending scene. I'm not going to spoil the ending scene just yet. And Barry's like, who the fuck are you? There's a lot of good comedy in this movie. And when Batman was just joking around, with Barry saying, you're going to get yourself killed, and he looks at Barry's plan to get the Speed Force back, he's like, you know what? I like it. Let me help you and stuff. It's just those classic comedy moments that really help out the movie. But the emotional moments in this movie, I'm going to admit, when Barry said goodbye to his mom and finally let go, I had tears coming down my face because every son is close to their mom most of the time, I hope.
Yeah.
So I believe me when I say that every son who loves their mom dearly, like I love my mama, that scene really, really hit deep just because I would do anything for my mom if it meant saving her.
Yeah, and Ezra Miller does a really good job portraying that love that he has for his mom and how much she means to him. And I think that's what sets those scenes over the top, is just his acting and his emotions through his face. Mm-hmm. And it is something you won't forget from your mind, especially if you love your mother.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, this movie just balanced the emotional tone and comedy tone just perfectly.
Yep.
All right, and number 6 on our positive list, the final battle with General Zod's army. This was so badass because I've always wanted to see the Flash fight Kryptonians in live action. We never really get to see it, even in the Flash TV show. What I liked about the final battle was, younger Barry finally learning how to use his powers, shocking people as if he was Emperor Palpatine. And it was just so cool, as Supergirl going toe to toe with General Zod and Batman, Michael Keaton's Batman, being in the Batwing, taking out Kryptonian ships. Everything about this battle, I just loved.
Yeah, and like one of the scenes I really liked was the scene with Batman and him crashing the two ships together. It really reminded me of like old Batman TV shows, just an iconic battle stunt to do. And then when the Flashes were working together and the younger Barry was learning to use his powers, it was just so cool to see the different colors and how vibrant they were and just how badass they were, honestly.
Yeah, like I said, this movie, I'm going to be honest, I prefer this final battle scene over the one in Ant-Man and Quantumania.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah, this one was just so cool, And then I think what's even more cool is that the Kryptonians were still able to put up a fight against both Barrys, because they're not slow themselves. As we saw in Justice League with Superman, could literally see Barry going full speed, even when he's going at his best, at his fastest. So it was a nice change of pace. And like I said, when Batman and Supergirl died, not once but twice, I was just like, fuck, I really wish there was a way they could have saved them. But it's a heartstring that they do their best at when they pull it away from you.
Yeah, it sucked when they died, but it happens in battles, so it's understandable. It just sucks that it happened twice.
Yeah. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our last positive, the big cameos in this movie. Let me just say this. The biggest cameo I loved was Nicolas Cage as Superman. For those that don't know, Nicolas Cage was going to be Superman in a Tim Burton directed Superman movie called Superman Lives. And I think they were going to connect him to Michael Keaton's Batman. But just seeing him, just seeing Christopher Reeves back as Superman, and then seeing Supergirl in his universe, just seeing all these different universes come together was just so cool during the multiverse scene.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite cameos was when we got to see Jay Garrick in one of the multiverses, and it was just so cool.
Yeah, we got to see Golden Age Flash, and I think for a minute I kind of saw Adam West Batman too. I have to watch the movie again to confirm it, but yeah, just seeing all these old school superheroes just back in this multiverse and everything just collapsing, it was perfect. Now, granted, I had 2 predictions that who we were going to see, and they never came true, but I'm not sad. I thought we would see Oliver Queen again as Spectre, because in the Flash season 9, he meets up with Barry again, and he has said that he's met with other Flashes from different Earths and universes, but nothing compares to Grant Gustin's Barry Allen. And so I just assume, I'm like, oh shit, we might see him interact with Ezra Miller, or a quick little cameo, but not sad about this. But the one I really, really expected was Grant Gustin's Flash. Now, they met before in the TV version of Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it sucks he never appeared.
Yeah, I wish he would have appeared. I think it would have really connected the DC universe to the TV show.
Yeah, it would have been just so cool to see. Maybe they meet again. Who knows? But I know Grant Gustin is done with the role. Maybe it was scheduling conflicts. But like I said, I hope they meet again in the future. And now we're done with our positives, and we are going on to our mixed feelings. Now, our first mixed feeling is the pacing kind of feels off. Like, there's some scenes in this movie to where it just feels like the scene is just dragging on and on and on. Kind of like when Michael Keaton's Batman is explaining to both Barry Allens about, different alternate timelines, universes, Earths, and, they kind of go with the Endgame style route when it comes to time travel. But even when he rescues Supergirl too, it just feels like it happened way too quick. And then, literally the next scene is Barry trying to get his powers. And then that it feels forever. And then it's like, already we're in the final battle already. It's like, oh shit,
Exactly. The whole thing, there's some scenes in this movie that just feel so rushed to me. Like when they were in the battle, they were having their really high moment. And then I feel like 2 seconds later, both Batman and Supergirl die. And it's just like, okay, hold on. And it was just, for me to process, it was just way too fast.
Yeah, and like I said, just the pacing feels really off. You could have trimmed this movie, I think, like a little bit less or fix some scenes a little bit. But that's just a mixed feeling and a nitpick.
Yeah.
And now with our last mixed feeling, and this is just more of the beginning of the movie, is that Barry Allen is kind of treated like the punching bag for the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting bullied by Wonder Woman. That was another big cameo. I love seeing Gal Gadot return. And, even Jason Momoa's Aquaman. It was cool to see. But even then, Alfred and Ben Affleck are treating Barry like he's a kid. And I get it. Barry's the youngest out of all of them. But it just sucks because even in like a lot of media and comics, Flash just kind of gets picked on by a lot of people. And, I get it. It's for humor effect.
Yeah.
But if anything, the Flash is the most broken character in any comic book history. And so it sucks when he's just kind of reduced to being a punching bag.
Exactly. I feel like he should have been respected more, especially in this movie, from how far they've came, and the fact they were still like using him as a punching bag was kind of weird to me. But
yeah, because the Flash was the MVP of that whole Gotham rescue scene, because if the Flash wasn't there, Gotham would be blown the hell up. But like I said, that's just a mixed feeling and nitpick. It doesn't really take me out of the movie, but it sucks because it's like, this man can literally end all of you and you would not see it coming, because the Flash can literally stand toe to toe with Superman himself, just anyone. So yeah, that's just a little nitpick.
Yeah, it's just a nitpick.
All right, and now moving on with our two negatives. Now, our first negative is going to be the reveal of Dark Flash. Now, let me just say this. I don't have a problem with the Dark Flash being an original character. I think it's a cool concept. But it's more of like how easy it was to see who it was coming from a mile away. The trailers even spoil it too.
Really?
Yeah, they kind of do. Because they release trailers and promos of, younger Barry and the Batman prototype suit. And then and I kept thinking, okay, maybe they'll pull a fast one and make it, a completely different character. No, the minute he got the metal sharpener stuck in his forearm and it looked like it was kind of like a wrist blade type of thing, I was like, oh my God, he's Dark Flash. That was, to me, it was like, yeah, I saw that coming. Granted, I was kind of hoping I'd be surprised, but yeah, I saw that shit coming from a mile away.
Yeah, personally, I didn't see it coming, so I guess it depends on how intuitive you are. But I think it was just kind of a weird thing to go. It reminded me too much of other storylines used in past projects.
Yeah, like, Savitar and season 3 of The Flash. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
Yeah.
Granted, I wish we got more screen time with Dark Flash. I think it was a cool concept that could have been executed more properly. And Dark Flash is basically younger Barry who kept going back in time to figure out different ways to save Supergirl. And each time failed, and God knows how long he was doing it for. That's the scary part. But like I said, I wish we got more screen time with Dark Flash, and I wish the reveal was a little bit better and not so obvious. That's the problem with a lot of movies today, is that whenever they have like this big mystery, you can kind of see it from a mile away. They don't really try anymore.
Yeah, I think it would have been cool if he was like inserted into the movie more, but other than that, it was okay.
Yeah, all right. And now moving on with our final negative, the ending. Now, let me just say this. What kind of pisses me off about the goodbye mom scene, during the ending of The Flash, is that he places a tomato can to a point to where his dad has to look up at the camera to prove his innocence like this, And to me, it's like you go throughout this whole movie about letting go of stuff, and then you fucked with the timeline again. And I get it. You missed your dad. You want to prove his innocence. But you mess up the timeline, and this is how he messed it up again. We all see he gets a call from Bruce Wayne after his dad gets released and is proven innocent. And I kept trying to listen to see who was the voice of Bruce Wayne, because we are going to get a new Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, in this new DC universe that James Gunn is creating. And I kept thinking, oh shit, we're going to see the new Batman. There's no way we're going to see the new Batman. And then he gets out of his car. And who is it? George fucking Clooney.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. And I think him messing with the timeline, I think it kind of just counteracts everything in the movie. So it was just a weird way to end it. And what I dislike even more is that we may not even see the impact of the change either because of the new universe coming.
Oh, yeah. James Gunn confirmed that this is the last in the Snyderverse. And, I on the way home, I kept telling Izzy, I'm confused because George Clooney was a replacement for Val Kilmer, who was a replacement for Michael Keaton. But I talked to my friend, Sir Victor Greenblade. What's up, man? I hope you're watching this podcast episode. And he explained that, that technically Val Kilmer and George Clooney's version of Batman are different from Michael Keaton. So it makes more sense. So I looked it up. So Michael Keaton's Batman is different than Val Kilmer's and George Clooney's. But still, it's like, really, George Clooney? I think it would have been more crazy if it was like Christian Bale. And I told Izzy, I honestly thought it was about to be Robert Pattinson. It's like, oh shit, they're really combining Robert Pattinson with this universe.
That would have been so cool if they did that, because I really like Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Yeah, but like I said, I wish we would have got maybe a little bit, like I said, you could have built up to Dark Flash, include him in the ending a little bit more. That way he has a little bit better motivation. And and this movie ends on a cliffhanger. It'll probably never get resolved. People complain about Across the Spider-Verse ending on a cliffhanger. Hell no, that movie had resolution. This one literally does not. And it sucks to say that we may never see Ezra Miller ever again.
Yeah, and it's sad that this story won't continue, because I feel like it left off at such an interesting part. It's just sad.
Yep. All right, now that we're done talking our spoilers for the movie, here's the big elephant in the room. Do we want Ezra Miller to come back? I'm going to be honest right now. At first, I was like, you know what? Yeah, let him come back. If he stays straight and cleans up his act, I'm down for it. But looking at it now, and talking to my friend Sir Victor Greenblade on TikTok, I don't think DC is going to keep him. I think financially, it would kind of screw him over in the long run. Just because he did a lot of messed up stuff, and I'm a firm believer in second chances, depending on what you do, of course, to crime.
Yeah.
But with this whole new DC universe, and with how the movie ended, with Ezra being connected to George Clooney's Batman, it's kind of like as if almost he's not going to come back, that he's just done. And so if that's the case, then I just think we should get someone new. Lucas still has my vote for Barry Allen.
Yeah, I think my opinion on the whole Ezra Miller situation is I don't think he should come back, and I don't think the studio is going to want him back just because he's too much of a liability. So I definitely think we should get someone new in the role for the next movies. And it's not because Ezra Miller is a bad actor. It's just because his actions say a lot, and it impacts the movie. Do you guys remember how many people wanted to boycott this movie?
Oh my god, yeah, a lot of people did, and I think some even did too. And this movie almost got released on HBO Max, or almost just got canceled entirely. But like I said, Ezra Miller did a really good job in this movie. But as far as coming back, I'm sorry, dude. With the way this movie ended, I just think you're done. I don't think you aren't coming back. Maybe in an Elseworlds one-off movie to help figure out the whole universe, but other than that, I don't think you're going to be our main Flash anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think you're just, after your actions, I think the studio is just not going to want you back, and I don't think anybody's going to want to work with you either, and that's going to be an issue as well. So I just don't see you coming back. Yeah,
and it sucks, but anyways, that's going to wrap it up for our spoiler-free and spoiler review of The Flash. I highly recommend it. It sucks because it's the last of the Snyderverse DC movies, but you know what? Despite that universe being a mess, I had a hell of a time with it, and there are some guilty pleasures of mine with that universe movies I love. But yeah, as always, take care of others and take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, guys.